The president's senior counselor for trade and manufacturing says the new tariffs will prove to be a, quote, tax cut for Americans, a claim that has been debunked as not true by top economists. Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and co-anchor of CNBC's Squawk Box and a New York Times columnist Andrew Ross Sorkin. Very good to have you both as we inch toward what the White House is calling Liberation Day.
I think I saw a movie called Liberation Day.
I think it's
Independence Day.
I call it T-Day.
T-Day, okay.
Tariff Day.
I've heard Peter Navarro also say that they're going to give tax breaks to Americans to offset a $5,000 or $10,000 rise in costs. But man, this is the thing I don't get. I don't get from how you get from here to there, how you unwind 40 years of globalism.
Look, I think the complicated part is that
a lot of pain.
No, that's what it is. This is a lot of pain. In fact, I think the phrase I keep hearing is that we have to eat our vegetables. That's what this is. Except that there's no cheese on top of the broccoli.
Americans aren't good at that, by the way.
At all. We don't like
when politicians.
We don't like our veggies. We don't like our veggies.
But is it really eating like the?
I don't know if it is. I mean, I think the question is, how long could it? If you really were going to go down this path.
Yeah.
There's sort of this almost like a behavioral science experiment.
Yeah.
Which is to say if you say there are tariffs and you mean it, so it's not a negotiation.
Right.
And businesses actually believe it.
Yeah.
How many years would it take most American companies to effectively reestablish all of their enterprise inside the United States? And not just the manufacturing of the car, but all of the component parts and the entire ecosystem.
Let's talk about the Ford F-150.
Is that a 5-year project? Is that a 10-year project? Yeah. And how long is the American public going to be willing to accept this eating the vegetable scenario?
Well, you take the Ford F-150.
Sure. Yeah.
About a third of those parts are made in the United States.
Right.
Which means you're taking sort of one of the most American vehicles out there, and you're dumping a whole lot of extra costs on top of there. And the question is, as Andrew was saying, it's fascinating, but it's a fascinating way that could really hurt Americans day in, day out. How long does it take you to unwind, I said 40 years, 45 years of globalism? It's going to be extraordinarily complicated. It's going to at least take 2 or 3 years for factories to retool, right?
And if you look at the F-150, I'm glad you brought it up because I was just in a factory that makes the clip, this clasp that is a little piece of American steel with a Canadian bolt.
Right.
And that's something that thousands of them go into every one of these trucks, holds the cables underneath. You know, half of it is Canadian, half of it is American. The price just went up. And you multiply that for every single part of a car that's made in the United States or assembled in the United States, the costs are going up.
And explain why there would need to be a Canadian part next to an American part.
Because the Canadian companies are the ones who all they do is focus on that little bolt. And the American companies focus on the steel and the other parts of the car, like a comparative advantage. I mean, they just do it better there, do it cheaply there, cross the border. This is how the reason you pay the price you pay for your automobile is because this is the most efficient way to make it. Now, we're not going to make it in the most efficient way. The prices will definitely go up.
To Joe's question, though, about how long it would take to be able to recreate this in America, as you were talking about, like Ford F-150, they've changed the way they create the Ford F-150. It's made out of different parts. Mine's a 2014. Am I going to be able to get parts to Lori? Her name's Lori.
Oh, goodness. No. I think the other conundrum of this is whether it's parts or
By the way, that
entire
question was
about
just
Lori.
To let you know, Mika has a Ford F-150.
No,
in fact, she has
love
two.
My Ford F-150, but my 2014.
She's got two. There you go.
No, I imagine those costs are going to go up too. I mean, this entire effort, in a short-term way, at a minimum, has to be inflationary.
Right. Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. And the reason why the stock market is as scared as it is because it is predicting that we're going to have a recession because of the inflationary effects of all this. And it's going to turn into some form of stagflation.
Yeah. And to the point you were just making, I wasn't talking about my F-150. I think a lot of Americans drive 2014 Ford F-150s.
Right. So your insurance is probably going to go. So you're bought and paid for. You own your car. But guess what? Your insurance is probably going to go up because to replace your car, if you have an accident or replace a part, it's now going to cost more. So even people who think that they can try to recession-proof or tariff-proof their own lives won't be able to, because prices for everything will be rising.
So you know what's interesting, Jonathan, all about this, we heard on Sunday Donald Trump talking about possibly running for a third term, that when I had been asking people inside the White House, why is he doing this? This is going to cause a lot of pain. You look at the polls, and this weekend Americans were talking about they're afraid the economy is going in the wrong direction. Their answer always was, well, he doesn't have to run again, so he's free to do what he wants to do. But you look at the polls, Donald Trump usually looks at polls more closely than he's looking at, like, for instance, this CBS poll, which that's a pretty dramatic turn in 3 months.
Yeah, that's almost 20-point drop. And Trump's policies are making you financially better off. Back in January, it was 42%. Now just 23%. And Christine, we heard from Kevin Hassert over the weekend. The tariff plan's still not even fully set. It's still we're only T-minus 3 days from Liberation Day. My Liberation Day calendar has been anxiously, pulling off the numbers, but they don't know exactly what they're going to do to whom or when and or how much. And the polls suggest Americans are growing very apprehensive here. So is the market.
And I don't know that American voters really signed up for this, right? Because you look at who's going to pay for tariffs. It's mostly working class people who are buying a car will pay more for tariffs, even if it is an American car, because that American car is full of foreign auto parts. And it will take years to actually reshore all of that, if in fact the industry does do it. And the stock market unnerved, worst quarter for the S&P 500 in 3 years, I think. This is a president who has taken the stock market as his personal poll, as his personal scorecard in the past, and seems to be willing to have pain in the near term, and that pain will be felt by working class people and consumers.
One other point, which is, if you think that Wednesday is T-Day or the final day, and that's the question, you said we don't know what it's going to be. To the extent anybody thinks that it's still a negotiating tool, meaning that in the future he would change what he's doing, that undermines the entire effort, because what happens is you have the government and businesses playing chicken with each other, right? Because the business leader, the CEO, is going to say to themselves, I don't know if this is going to be on for 6 months or is this going to be on for 3 years. If it's on for 3 years, I might have to make some decisions. If it's on for 6 months, maybe I'll wait it out and maybe it'll cost me short term, but I don't know.